everyone, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a reaction video to the Plain Bagel. He recently put out a video, actually it's been a few weeks now, called Investing Still Won't Make You Rich, Probably, which was a follow-up to his own video where he titled it Investing Won't Make You Rich, Probably. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Richard the Plain Bagel, he is a financial analyst and does a lot of great investing related content and also some market news type things, but generally tries to put his 2 cents kind of with that professional lens as a financial analyst in looking at the investment world. He breaks down some often complicated topics into digestible, easy to follow, and enjoyable videos. I would definitely recommend checking his channel out if by chance you haven't already. But anyways, let's get into the video.
I thought it would be a good idea to revisit an older video I did over 2 years ago titled Investing Won't Make You Rich, Probably. This is a video I put out fairly early on in my YouTube career, if you want to call it that, where I talked about these get-rich-quick ads that I was getting on YouTube. It was kind of the first time I had seen these sorts of ads, where these people were in front of their private jets and their fast cars and their mansions, talking about how easy it was to get this sort of lifestyle through a trading program or course or whatever it was they were selling. But I want to revisit this topic because I think the message I was trying to get across is even more applicable today. Things have kind of only gotten worse from then. We've seen an endless list of new NFTs and crypto projects, many of which don't have any merit, but are simply trying to take advantage of that hype around them. We've seen celebrities promoting these cryptos and being paid to, pump up these assets. And unfortunately, it seems like a lot of everyday investors are the ones who are passionately posting about these things, talking about how it's going to be the thing that changes their life.
On an almost daily basis, because I'm involved in a couple investment-related Discord groups, I get bombarded with these spammy type accounts that are literally advocating for pump and dump crypto groups. So it is very much the Wild West, especially in the crypto space. But yes, indeed, things are plenty crazy right now, and there are lots of ways to really hurt yourself financially if you're not careful because of all the different scams and really just dishonest or morally questionable operations that are going on right now, not just in crypto, but in the finance world in general. As Richard likes to say, you gotta stay safe out there.
Now, I know I'm a chronic party pooper, but I can appreciate that some people are memeing when they say to the moon or see you at the top, but some people aren't. So I wanted to put out another party pooper video to reiterate the points from my original video, but I also wanted to take the time to clarify my original message because obviously with the admittedly more clickbait title, some misconstrued the message as being anti-investment. In fact, the Meet Kevin video was a critique of mine that labeled the section that talked about my video, Investing Makes You Poor, which obviously I don't believe. So let me clarify up front what I mean when I say investing won't make you rich, probably. Because as you hopefully know, I'm an advocate for investing. It is my whole channel. First of all, by rich here, I'm not referring to being financially independent or set for retirement, because I do believe that investing can take a lot of people to that point. There's still work you have to put in, but investing is that great tool that closes that gap between where we are and where we need to be for retirement. What I am referring to is that kind of wealth that's being marketed in these videos, say being like a multi-millionaire, where you can afford a fast car and it's not really going to put a dent into your retirement savings. And I'm also referring to getting rich in the short term, as in, say, under 10 years. Because obviously, the longer time you have, the more money you can compound, and really anyone can become the richest person in the world if they have all the time in the world. So probably a better way to word it would be investing or even speculating won't make you rich in the short term, probably. And I always include that probably because yes, there are stories of people, making a killing off of Bitcoin or whatever. But the point here is that investing can only do so much.
And to that, time is one of the greatest tools that any investor has. The more time you have to invest or make money in some way, the better off you're probably going to be. That's why when you look at the whole population, age is the single greatest predictor of wealth because you have the time to produce things during your life. You have the time to gain experience and increase your income that way, but also you have the time to save and invest into things and allow that to compound on itself too. It's very unlikely, though not impossible, that you're going to strike some investment that catapults your wealth many times over in a very short period of time, less than a year or even within a couple of years. It's just not likely that that's going to happen. It could happen, and you could play your cards in such a way that you can make it more likely, but it still doesn't mean it will be likely or that it's guaranteed to happen. You have to be very careful with that. And unfortunately, a lot of people make emotional decisions, and that's why we need videos like the party pooper videos that Richard puts out.
99.9% of the time, it's not a miracle worker. And you need to fuel your returns with savings, with money that you've earned from active income, say, and put into the market. It's very rare for individual positions to skyrocket by such a degree that it changes your financial situation. And anyone who tells you that you can go from a minimum wage working cashier to a private jet flying, yacht riding millionaire through just investing, through taking, that small amount of savings and putting into promising positions that will skyrocket, they're likely trying to scam you, or at the very least, sell you something that's probably not in your interest. As you probably know, the long-term average of the S&P 500 is roughly 10%. So you could view that as being the market return that most people are able to access if they just put their money into, say, an index fund. And 10% is a solid return. Over the long term, not many people actually are able to achieve that amount. But the thing is, this 10% is both before taxes as well as before inflation. And when you consider those two variables with some assumptions, the return that you actually see is closer to 5.4%, almost half of the original return.
And that's assuming you hold and don't try to manipulate your return in any way if you're just following the more passive approach, riding the index for the long term. Because a lot of people get very fearful. They buy on emotion and they sell on emotion. They buy on hype and they sell on fear. And those are the same people who often kill their returns because of that. When you invest with fear and you don't use logic in making what's really a mathematical decision, that's what investing is, it's weighing probabilities. When you're not being logical in that setting, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot more likely than not. And you can apply a lot of the same principles to just about any type of long-term investing.
Let's say that you start off with $10,000 and you want to reach $1 million just by investing that $10,000 at this market rate. In real after-tax terms, it'll take you 87.6 years to become a millionaire, to reach that $1 million mark, which obviously isn't going to work for most people. But if you add savings to the mix, that time period shortens quite a bit. So let's say that every year you put $3,000 into the market in addition to that initial investment. So it's about $200 a month that you're putting into your investment account. At this market rate that you're able to achieve, it would take you 52.8 years to turn that $10,000 plus your savings into $1 million. So great, we've shaved off a lot of time, but that's still a bit bigger than most people's average career length. You're still spending a lot of your life just to get to $1 million. So how do you get there sooner? Well, you can increase your savings, try to earn a bigger income so that you can get more money going into the market, whether that be starting a business or taking on education to earn a better job, anything that lets you save more money. But let's say that instead of saving money, you focus instead on the return aspect. You say, I only have this $10,000, I can only put aside $200 a month. Let's focus on bumping up that return figure. And you know what, while we're at it, let's try to get to that goal of $1 million in real terms again, within a 10-year period, like we mentioned earlier. With these variables, to reach that $1 million in a 10-year period, you would need a after-tax real return of 51.5%, which means that you need a pre-tax nominal return, so what you actually earn with your investments, of 72.7%. Now, admittedly, that's a little high. For reference, some of the best investors in the world, like Peter Lynch and Warren Buffett, are on record for only earning a long-term average return of 20 to 30%, roughly in that range.
And what Richard points out here is actually a very common misconception by people who aren't as familiar with investing, and even those who might be a little bit familiar. And that's that the best investors do not make these 100% year-over-year returns. Typically, they'll have maybe a couple winners where they have a few really great big years, but over the long term, they average something between 10 to 25% in the most extreme cases over a significant period of time. You're not going to see these 50% year-over-year returns every single year for a very long time, just because that is nearly impossible to do. You have to keep hitting home runs over and over and over. When it comes to investing, you have to make reasonable assumptions, at least if you want to have any likelihood of actually succeeding. When you're justifying your investment strategy, you have to make reasonable assumptions. Otherwise, once again, you're probably going to shoot yourself in the foot.
So it's kind of foolish to assume that you'd be able to beat the market to such a degree that you would earn roughly triple or more than triple what these famous investors themselves are on record achieving. But you might say, Richard, this time is different. This is the age of the pudgy penguins and NFTs of rocks. This is an opportunity that we've never had before. Not really. It's not the first market exuberance, rally, if you will, that we've had around certain assets. Automobiles, biotech, computers, the internet, these are all things that had rallies around them. And especially with the dot-com bubble, we saw returns like we've seen with some of these positions. But importantly, these returns were all temporary. They were all short-term returns that moderated over the long term. They weren't able to consistently offer that return that would be needed to, like I mentioned, revolutionize your life. Not to mention that on top of all this, there's the research that shows that A, most people aren't even able to achieve the market return thanks to behavioral biases and limitations with their trading and investing strategy. But also B, that asset allocation, so the asset class that you put your money into, tends to play a bigger role in the return you see than security selection, than the individual things you pick. So chances that picking the right pudgy penguin will pay for your retirement, they're a little slim. So hopefully I've demonstrated just how rare it is to completely change your lifestyle thanks to the specific stocks or NFTs or cryptos or whatever that you pick. But I think it also helps to talk about how people do get rich then. How do people get to that point where they're able to own these fast cars and private jets? Or even less so, to just be a multimillionaire and be sound financially and not have to worry about how much money you're bringing in. Well, in my original video, I highlighted a Spectrum Group survey that talked to households with net worths between $100,000 and $1 million outside of their primary residence. And they asked these people, how did you get to where you are? And one of the things they did was they asked them to rank certain principles in terms of how important they were to getting to where they are today. And one of the highest ranking sentiments was the following statement: a dedicated and regular savings program is something I consider very important. It earned a 81.98 score on the 2016 survey. Now this was the main premise of Meet Kevin's video, was that in this survey, I was focusing on the lowest bucket of these households. And that if you go to the higher buckets, the 1 million to 5 million and the 5 million and up ranges, that these people have more of their assets invested than the lower buckets. And that's true. These people are investing a lot of their money.
Which is exactly the opposite of what we were told in Plain Bagel's video, that saving is actually what makes you rich and investing is not.
But I don't view a savings program as being mutually exclusive from investing, and I don't think that's how it was interpreted in the survey. I think it's just saying, these people tried their best to not spend all their money.
And I've got to agree with Richard here that savings really are the fundamental backbone to any successful investment strategy. If you're spending more money than you bring in, you're going to be in big trouble. Even if your investments are doing quite well, you're eventually going to have to pull from those investments and sell them at some inopportune time to pay for your expenses. So you have to be able to save money and have money to be able to set aside that you can then invest or use to cover expenses in an emergency or something like that. If you don't have those fundamentals down, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle once again, because you're going to have to pull from your investments and you're not going to be able to let the compounding do its magic. You're going to have to keep tinkering with it to get money out of those investments to pay for your lifestyle. So being able to save really is fundamental.
And in fact, if you actually look at the millionaire and the ultra high net worth groups, they actually scored higher on the same statement. The millionaire group scored at 84.14 and the ultra high net worth group scored it at 85.52. So it seems to be that when you ask people who are millionaires, an important factor for their success is their prudence, how they saved their money, didn't spend it, and use that money to grow their wealth. And at least anecdotally, this lines up with my own experience working in the field. As many of you know, I work for a money manager where we have a minimum investment amount of $500,000. So a lot of our clients are high net worth clients, if not ultra high net worth. And the vast majority of clients have gone to that point by either owning a business, having a very high paying job, having a more average paying job, but being very prudent with their spending, or the fourth bucket being inheritance. That's actually surprisingly a very high group. So that's a strategy as well for getting rich. So all that is just to say that if you put millionaires into different categories, the group that got to being a millionaire thanks to a certain investment kicking off is probably one of the smallest groups out there. And it's clearly not the most reliable way to getting to that stage in your life. And if you see someone who's wealthy promoting something, using their wealth to try and prove to you that this thing works, most of the time they didn't make their own money from that thing, but rather either the selling of that program or some other thing that's totally unrelated or different from what they're selling you. Logan Paul obviously didn't get rich from Dink Doink. And that's not to say that people shouldn't be able to make cryptocurrencies and NFTs and all this stuff. That's truly not what I'm trying to get at here. And I'm not trying to say that we should heavily regulate the space, but I do think there need to be more protections in terms of how these things are marketed. That applies both to trading courses and to actual assets. There's a reason that you don't see financial advisors saying, guys, this stock is going to the moon. It's because they're heavily regulated, and that's incredibly unethical. And yet you can have people who made a cryptocurrency promote it as an incredible revolutionary investment opportunity that will make you a billionaire. And then, when you challenge them, it's not financial advice. This is just a social experiment, if you will. But guys, one that will make you a lot of money.
Now to this, because of human psychology, greed, and the plenty of bad actors that always seem to be out there, I don't think regulation is going to completely get rid of all types of financial fraud and scamming. There's always going to be some of that, and it's probably just going to move to some other area. For example, crypto is highly unregulated compared to stocks right now. So stocks don't see a lot of open pump and dump fraud schemes that crypto is currently seeing, because it seems like there aren't a lot of regulations going towards crypto. You don't have a lot of punishments being dished out for otherwise bad behavior that wouldn't be acceptable in the stock market. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be punished for fraud. Of course they should. That's illegal. But I'm saying that if you just introduce more regulation or more rules around a certain practice, I think ultimately you'll find workarounds, because that's just how people act. Because people unfortunately get very, very excited when they believe that they can make a lot of money, no matter how unreasonable it might be on paper and in practice. When they have an outrageous lifestyle in mind and that's driving all of their decisions, they're more likely to make unreasonable decisions or look past many big red flags.
Just ask yourself, why are they selling it to you? Why are they selling to you, say a YouTube viewer, instead of a higher net worth person with more money? Why to you and not a hedge fund that could pay millions, if not billions up front for a proven investing strategy or asset? Why sell you this thing up front instead of just agreeing to manage your money on your behalf and earning these returns themselves and earn a very sizable fee doing so over a long period of time? The answer, of course, is because they don't have a promised method for earning these returns. And in taking this approach where they sell you the asset, they sell you the course or whatever it is, they are transferring the risk of that thing not turning out as they said it would to you, the buyer. So of course they'll say whatever it takes to get you to buy that thing, because once you've taken it, they've made their money, they're done.
Now this is very well said, so I'm not going to add too much here. Just realize that knowledge ultimately is the best defense against financial malpractice and all of these scams that are out there.
Knowledge
is the best way to know whether something is too good to be true.
What's the takeaway? Well, really, it's just there's no cryptocurrency, NFT, stock, or trading course that substitutes being financially responsible and, in some cases, earning an active income. You can't go from zero to hero. There's only so much investing can do. And really, like I said, it's not a miracle worker. You do have to give it something to start compounding. It's a bummer, but the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you can start investing responsibly and seeing your returns compound. I know after all this, some people call me a hater or a fuddrucker, a party pooper, hopefully actually, if I did my job right. But hey, look, I would love it if you could buy a single NFT or crypto or whatever and make all the return that you could ever need. I would love to see people who are in a desperate financial situation get to a point where they're okay, all thanks to a single asset. But that's just not how it works. There's just nothing out there that's a quick fix pill that is easy to take and that solves all your problems. And you shouldn't be using investing as a crutch for very real financial problems, because in many ways, these programs, these assets are just selling you a false sense of relief. And if you're someone who made a fortune from these things, that's awesome. It's unlikely, but certainly there are people out there. All I'm saying is that for most people, it's not a reasonable strategy to focus on that kind of return when it's very rare to see that. And please don't interpret this as a bear case for cryptocurrencies or assets or programs or whatever. You know, like I said, I don't care if you make a crypto, I don't care if you sell a trading course or whatever. It's just how these things are marketed that really gets to me. And I hate seeing these dreams sold when they're all usually just fluff.
So well done on this one by Richard the Plain Bagel. One of the key takeaways that he really focused a lot of time on was talking about earning an active income to fund your investments and having that as kind of your sort of bedrock to build your investment portfolio off of and to catapult your returns over the long term when you're feeding your nest egg over and over in time. I think one of the key questions to ask yourself is, does it make more sense to try and figure out how to invest your way to an extra $50,000 or find a way to earn an extra $50,000 by creating a side hustle or creating a business or simply getting better at your job, adding a skill like you suggested earlier on in the video? In many cases, it's going to be a lot easier, not necessarily easy, but easier or more likely to be able to earn more income now to then invest that and allow that to compound over the long term rather than trying to manufacture your way through financial engineering and crazy YOLO bets, which often unfortunately end in disaster. And don't allow someone to take advantage of you by selling you a dream rather than focusing on reality. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. So if you like this video, please like it. And if you want to see me react to a particular video, definitely let me know in the comments below, since I do enjoy doing these. They are a sort of fresh perspective on different topics, and I want to do more of these if you guys want to see them. But in any event, be sure to subscribe since I put out new videos every single week and wouldn't want you guys to miss out. But until next time, take care.